The Executive Lounge is supported by Villa Monticello. Experience your own tranquility.
Is this something you learned? Were you born an entrepreneur?
You got to start small.
I have not allowed being a woman to hold me back.
Credibility is not just making money, it's about making sure that people trust what you're doing.
Law practice is not only about going to court, it's about advice.
It's very difficult to hire somebody who's not motivated and then make them motivated.
One of the things that I'm known for is integrity.
They have to see you as a person of integrity.
Welcome to the Executive Lounge. I'm Gyimah Addo.
That's right. Reality check, you know what I mean? Street lights, eh? Dookie. Scorpion. Yeah.
And I share that with you as I welcome you to another edition of the Executive Lounge with me, Gyimah Addo. Today we'll be talking to a woman who decided that she would rather do something that many people don't consider a main line of business instead of do what everyone else expects of you when you've got an MBA. Today we'll be talking to Gwen Gyimah Addo, the CEO of the Hair Center here in Accra. Gwyneth joins us to tell us all about the lessons in setting up the Hair Center and the things that life has taught her. This is, after all, the business leadership program that brings business captains from all walks of life and all facets of our economy to share their experiences and their insights with us. Once again, you're welcome. Gwyneth, welcome to the Executive Lounge.
Hello, Ishra. Thank you so much.
Now, let's start off. I always like this. Let's start from who Gwyneth is, your family, where you come from, and what childhood was like.
What can I say? Gwen is a simple girl. Not simple-minded. I came from a family of 6. We were 4 boys and then 2 girls. My dad was, an entrepreneur. He's always been a businessman. I mean, the older people watching the show will probably know him. He started this whole video, thing. His company was called Video City back in the day. And so, I grew up with, this set. As you can imagine, cameras everywhere, and now I'm married, 2 kids, executive MBA. I used to be with Standard Chartered Bank and I resigned to take charge of my baby hair center.
So you traded a corporate job to venture into entrepreneurship, and you chose to sell hair extensions and hair products. Why? What was the inspiration?
Okay, so at the time that I was with Standard Chartered, what I realized was that, a whole bunch of people would travel and, buy some hair, put it at the back of, their trunk, and then, say they're selling Brazilian hair and all sorts. But there was nobody who had actually put a face to it. So what I realized was that, well, if the market is that big, then it needs to have a face. And so I said to myself that I'm going out there to, produce my own brand, find my own supply chain, and see what happens.
As often as we all do, we talk to people who are close to us about our dreams, our aspirations, and our ideas. How did your friends take the idea of quitting a high-flying banking job to go and sell hair?
Well, that's very interesting that you would ask. My colleagues at the bank were, I was at the heart of the bank, I was in corporate. I mean, everybody wants to be in the corporate section. And so really, for me, it wasn't about money. But most of them also understood that, I was a born entrepreneur, behind the desk just wasn't for me. And so they believed that I could do it, whatever that I chose to do, not specifically hair, but whatever that I chose to do. And so my family also.
Let's backtrack a little bit to your family. So 4 boys, 2 girls, a father who was a trailblazer, starting stuff that no one had been doing at the time. Your mom a trader as well. So there's a lot of business. Your family is a hive of business activity. How much has that shaped who Gwen has become?
Oh, it's really, really helped a lot. When we were younger, we used to, you know, take turns on who goes to open the store in Okaishi. I mean, we're all educated and everything, but here my mom was a trader, and so you possibly couldn't say, I won't go and open the store because, you know, I'm in Legon and I don't want my, you know, maids to come and see me at the store. It was natural. I mean, as young as 14, we were going there, you know, to open the store, and it was normal, and to, you know, interact with people and sell to people. And so this is something that was, you know, from way back.
Okay. Family values, what would you say you picked from your mom, and what would you say you picked from your dad and maybe your siblings?
Honesty. You know, you can't underestimate how critical and important honesty is. Because you see, even in business or, you know, anything that you do, if the people around you are dishonest, you know, you're set for doom. And so we were, you know, taught to be open at all times and to be honest about whatever it is that we felt. And for me, that has been one of the greatest, you know, values for me, because I mean, it's trickled down to a lot of other values. But if you ask me what, you know, the top value is, I'll tell you is honesty.
Interesting. Your family, creative bunch. Two of your brothers took up Dad's passion for videos.
Yes.
Did you foresee yourself playing a role in that space? Were you ever attracted to that?
No. You know, I cannot even draw. I'm not, you know, they can edit and do all sorts of things. It's not my strength. What I can do is I can do business. I can sell anything to you, you know, anything.
At what age did you realize you could do all of that?
Oh, very young. I mean, it's interesting because I've just, you know, remembered this. I was in class 4 when I remember people liked powder milk. And so what I would do is, you know, take these rubbers, like, you know, plastic, and then pour the powder in it and, you know, tie it into little bunches and then send it to school and then sell to my friends. I was at class 4, even class 3 actually.
So class 3, class 4, you would have been around age 8, 9 there.
Yeah,
and you were
thereabouts, and I
already
was,
trading at that time.
yeah.
And was that something that was encouraged at home? I know your father was an entrepreneur, your mom a trader, but at that age, did they encourage you to?
Not at all. I mean, you would think that, you know, my dad being a businessman and my mom a trader, they would say, oh yeah, you should, you know, trade. But, you know, like typical African parents, they wanted, you know, me to go to law school. You know, when I finished Legon, I majored in philosophy. I mean, I knew I was going to read law, but then I ended up at the bank. And then at the bank, after 6 years, I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to trade. And so it wasn't, you know, my dad was not happy with me. I can tell you that for a fact. Initially. Yeah, he wasn't, he was like, what? You know, after all this education, you're going to sell in a store, you know?
And how long did it take for Daddy to sort of come round to the idea that hair center and entrepreneurship was the thing for you?
Okay, so before I started Hair Center, I was doing it, as I told you, you know, I was selling it in my car, moving from store to store, and, you know, crediting it to people that would not buy. And so, you know, at that time, this was in 2008, he wasn't in support of it. And then in 2012, I officially opened the store. He still wasn't in support of it up until I think 2014, just before we lost him, was when he came to the store and he was like, wow. And then, you know, he looked at my business model and was just blown away with what I was doing.
You've taken the hair, you know, business to a whole new level. I quite remember when I first saw Hair Center advertising. It was just a logo, constantly advertising on Instagram. And I thought to myself, who would do something like this? How much of the business model, where did you get the ingredients to put together the business model for Hair Center?
Okay, like I keep emphasizing, naturally, trading comes naturally to me because of my background and probably just the way I am. But also, I had my executive MBA with CIBS, and the focus was on entrepreneurship and innovation. And it was actually during the course of that MBA that I realized that, my business model was actually not placed appropriately. There were gaps in my supply chain and so many things. And so that, I would say, redirected me and led me in the right direction to reshape the brand to be what it is now.
We're made up of all the sum total of the experiences that we've had. So for you, you've experienced trading and entrepreneurship from the home, creativity, you go to school to learn business and innovation, and then you worked in a bank and you corporate environment. How did you put all of that together to, as it were, create a viable business out of what a lot of people do, either as hobbyists or the typical tabletop trading that we see, the informal trading as we see it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's one thing that I missed saying, because for people that are probably watching me, they would think, it's so self-made. It's actually not. I have had the support of my family, my brothers. My brother Joe will not let me sleep. He tells me if you go to sleep, the brand goes to sleep. And so, you need to keep working. I've also had the support of OG, famous people who shaped my logo. He was the one that came up with the concept. Now, it was challenging. I mean, I invested quite a lot of money, all my savings, and then, some support from my husband, who wasn't even my husband then in the business, and I lost all of it. Now, in any typical business, what you would do is quit, forget it, and move on. But I had a passion. For me, it wasn't just selling. I had a passion to do hair, to sell hair. That was all I wanted to do all my life. It's passion. It all boils down to passion. I had passion for what I was doing. And I tell people that, you don't look at somebody and then say to yourself that this person is selling eggs and is making money out of it, and so I'm going to do the same thing. You need to have passion for whatever it is that you're doing, because you know what? The economy is going to fail you. People that said they were going to buy from you are going to disappoint you. There's so many things that are going to hit you. And so at the end of the day, what is going to sustain you and to keep you going is your passion. Okay, so for me, it was passion, and, hard work and support from the right people that got me to, create something out of what you said. People would just take as a hobby.
Now, you talk about support from the right people. Quite a lot of the time, entrepreneurs talk about access to financing being a very major barrier for them. You worked in the bank, so you'd know your way around getting, finances. How did you raise the capital, and has it been smooth sailing?
In the beginning, it wasn't. In the beginning, I did my business plan. I showed it to some few people. I didn't take it to the bank. I showed it to some few people that I thought were, what we say, business angels, or would be interested in investing. And nobody was interested.
So you worked in a bank, which means you know how to fill all the forms and present the right documents to access finance. And I talk about this largely because entrepreneurs tend to have challenge, or they talk about their biggest hurdle being raising finance. In your case, you left the bank after 6 years. I'll assume you would have saved up some money to start the business. Was that enough?
It's never enough. It's never, ever enough. I mean, for me at least. In the beginning, yeah, I saved some money, but my business plan was ready. I showed it to some friends and people that I thought were, business angels or, potential investors for the business. And they all, looked at this and said, oh, I'll get back to you. You call them and it is stories. And so I didn't go to sleep on it. So it was my husband who, naturally, would, support me and then said, you know what, I believe this is something that you want to do. And so, pushed me and then invested some amount of money in it. And by the way, all the money, went down the drain.
Really? How
Yeah.
did you feel? I mean, so you're passionate about something, you invest money into it and all your time, and then suddenly it's all gone. I mean, how did you feel at that point?
In business, you need to exercise some level of wisdom. A lot of people get into business and think it's enough that they have a passion. You need to be also wise or surround yourself with the people that would, give you good counsel. And so what I did was that, I went into a business that I was just passionate about. Went to a supplier, saw some hair, and then said, oh, I love this. This would do well in Ghana, and then shipped it out here without, taking my time to actually analyze it. Is this the best? Is this what they want? Because it's not about you. It's about the customers. It's about your external customers. What do they want? I did not do that. I did not look at my market positioning to see that, okay, if I bring this here, are people going to be able to afford it? I didn't do all of that. And so, the money went down the drain. I give it out on credits. It will not pay and all sorts of things. And so it took somebody who believed in me to reinvest into that. And like I said earlier, most people, when that happens and it's something that they don't love, they just forget it and then move on to something else. But
Well,
I
you
didn't.
did. And a combination of somebody believing in your dream and also your own passion. But it seems
wisdom.
also you learned the hard way.
Yeah.
How has that helped Gwen today? What does that mean for you as a person today, all the lessons from that heartbreak?
It's been a big learning curve. You need to go through this to be successful, because success does not come easy. It's not, it's not there for you to just go and grab. Naturally, you're going to make mistakes. And so today, there are so many things that I will not do. I take my time in making decisions. I'm more analytical. I don't rush. I don't get too excited. I'm a more measured person because of my prior experience. And also when I started this business, I started with policies. Earlier, if you're my friend, I just say, oh, come for it, you can pay later. Now it's a purely non-credit, policy that we have since 2012. Some people said it wasn't going to work, and I can tell you that it's worked pretty well. Fantastic, actually.
So you decided on a policy and you stuck to it.
And you stuck to it.
And over time, it's working well.
Yes.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with more on the Executive Lounge. And we're talking to Gwen Gyimah Addo. And she is the CEO of the Hair Center. If you want some extensions, you know who to talk to. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge, and we're talking to Gwen Gyimah Addo, and she is the CEO of the Hair Center here in Accra. What's your opinion about the erroneous perception that women who do business in the beauty industry didn't do well in school, and they're, for the lack of a better expressions, not the brightest people?
Wow, thank you very much. I'm shocked that in 2017 people would still think like that. The world has changed a lot. Inshra, the world has really changed. In the olden days, if you go to secondary school, it's a big deal. And then it came to university. Now, I feel almost most people have a university, education. So now it's enough that you have a uni education, but it doesn't end there. It's not sufficient. So people in the beauty industry are not people that are not educated. like it was in the past, or people that didn't, attain a high level of education. Things have really changed. People have come to understand that, times have changed. You don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a doctor. You can be highly educated and choose whatever fields that you want. I mean, use me for an example. I have my executive MBA. I could be in any corporate institution and add value to them, but I choose to be in the hair industry, in the beauty industry, and there are so many people like me and more, who are, churning out innovative stuff because of the level of education that they have. And by the way, for those also that don't have, such high levels of education, it really doesn't matter, because, I mean, there are people that are highly educated, been to the Harvards and all the Ivy League schools that you can think of, but lack common wisdom. You need to be able to apply both, have a fair balance to be able to do well in business. And so if you're a Makola woman and you're in the beauty industry, you can have equally next to you somebody who is, a tech graduate, also doing the same thing with you in Makola. I have friends that are in Makola now, and, they're educated, my mates, and they're doing business fantastic, alongside the, average market woman who probably doesn't have that, level of education.
What are the principles that have worked for you, and that could work for anybody who decides that I find a nice gap in the market and I want to be able to explore that gap and create a business for myself?
Some of the principles for me has been to, first of all, you need to do your research. You need to do your feasibility studies. You don't just jump into any business, and you need to also understand the market that you operate in. There are some things that are working out in Europe perfectly, but are not going to work out here. And so for me, you need to study your market, understand what the people want. You need to be in search of gaps. What is there? What is the job to be done? To be able to create, an innovative product or come up with something that would, appeal to people and then sell.
So, Gwen, the hair industry has evolved rather rapidly. You hear about, first it started, you kind of heard, Brazilian hair, then Peruvian hair. You hear virgin Indian hair and all kinds of terminologies that associated with the hair. What I'd like to know is, how are you able to identify what would work for us here in Ghana?
Senta is positioned differently from any other person that is trading, locally here. Right from the onset, we said we wanted to deal with hair extensions that were as close to our natural hair as possible. We were not interested in introducing, Caucasian textures that were clearly, not your hair. And so if you look at our textures, they are, they're a little bit coarse. We have, textures that are like our own hair, natural hair, and, various textures that blend in smoothly with, our features. Because, I definitely, I for one, have decided that we're not going to carry the blondes and, all those colors, because it just doesn't look too great. And so we're not only selling to you, we make sure that we sell you something that looks good,
So you kind of put the customer right at the center of what you do.
Yes.
And how are you able to arrive at, or how are you able to arrive at what would work for who? What kind of research? Where are you getting all the facts to be able to do this?
Inshra, there's something that I realize about, doing business in Ghana. We don't listen to our customers, They are the most useful tools that you can think of. because they are the ones that will give you the feedback. They are the users of the products. They are the ones that are going to tell you if it's great or it's not. But a customer walks in to complain about your products and you get upset. Okay, so if they know that is the trend, how are they going to come back and give you the information that you need? And so most of our products were inspired by customers. For instance, we have this fro curl that was inspired by Lydia Forson. Lydia Forson champions, natural hair, and, sometimes you want to change.
How have you found the insights that have informed the differentiation of your brand and also getting the right products out to the customer?
Okay, so you need to understand that, is a monopolistic competition in the sense that if you take any two textures of hair, it's going to be hard for you to tell if this is from, without any tags, it's going to be hard for you to tell if this is from Hair Center or not. And I mean good hair, not, synthetic and human hair. So in our differentiation strategy, we have developed our brand, in the sense that we realize that when people come to the hair center, they are not buying hair, they are buying a brand. Because if they come, they want the packaging and they want, somebody may come to just get a brush and then they say, oh, I want a bag. So when I go out there, somebody would know that I came to the hair center, because for them, it's a brand that they're buying into. And so I think in business, don't focus on the money. Focus on building a brand, because years to come, that is going to be your differentiation strategy. A lot of people are going to come up with the same thing that you're doing. I mean, look at Coca-Cola. There are, American Cola, there's this, but there's only one Coca-Cola, and that is the essence of building a brand, a strong brand that is recognizable everywhere in the world. And so when the bag is lying anywhere, they respect it, like, oh, that's from the hair center. Oh, or she walks into the salon with a bag, oh, she's from the hair center. It must be good hair, So I think for every entrepreneur or every business owner watching, you need to focus on building a brand first.
Now, you talk about the customer being at the center of what you do. How are you able to filter what would work for your customers so that they keep coming back?
Yeah, you need to listen to your customers, Inshira. They are the best people to give you feedback because, like I said, they are the users of the product. They are going home to use it, to brush it, and do all kinds of things to it. So they are the people that are going to be able to give you feedback. And you need to accept the feedback because sometimes it's not good. But what you need to also know is that, the supply chain is made up of a lot of people. You see, we have the manufacturers, we have the people that are sewing, we have, that different people that make that product up. And so if they're able to give you feedback, for instance, the hair is shedding, you would know who to attack. That the hair is shedding, not because it's not good hair, because of the sewing. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be in the factories for training for about 6 months. So I know how these things work. You will find that, somebody, instead of them to get up from their seats and, fill up the sewing machine with glue or whatever, they don't do it. They just sew around it. And what's going to happen? You wear the hair and it's going to shed. And then what happens? The customer is unhappy and then they say, oh, hair center doesn't have good hair because of this experience. So when the customer gives you this feedback, quickly you're able to go back, readjust, and produce the right thing. So you definitely need to, ensure that you listen
Listening to your customer, being a part of the process and understanding the intricacies of the business. Because saying that you spent 6 months in a factory to understand the production process, how will that ensure that I get the same quality consistently?
For whatever products that whether you're selling biscuits or you're making drinks, you need to understand the process flow. Because if you're going to be successful, you need to understand the various chains that get into it to make that product. And so for the hair center, we're actively involved in whatever that we churn out. We don't just bring the hair, because clearly we don't make the hair locally, but we make sure that we're very involved in what it looks like, what it feels like, because of the feedback that we get from our customers, you know. And then also another thing that I needed to add, you need to also understand that your internal customers, which are the people that work for you, are also very important, because these guys are also just as close to the hair. And, you know, they're able to pick up certain issues. They're able to tell you, you know, I mean, like you said earlier, I mean, half the time I'm not there these days because, I mean, I'm on the road trying to develop the brand and, you know, filter it across other areas. You need to be able to listen to those guys because they are able to get information from the customers that probably sometimes they don't even want to tell you because you're the CEO and they don't want to break your heart. But these guys are close to the customers. So, you know, they're able to get the information that you need to make the right decisions.
But what kind of leadership style allows for them to be able to freely come to you and tell you sometimes things that are unpleasant? And how do you filter them so that the outcomes of that feedback is, in the end, good?
Okay, so everybody who works for me knows that they are not workers, they are partners. You see, if you treat people in a certain way, which is very typical in Ghana, I mean, you're a worker, I pay you at the end of the month, and so you're not my friend. I tell you to put that chair down there, it should be down there because I pay you to do that. You're not going to get 100% from them. They will do the job, but they will not go the extra mile. You see, you need to be able to inspire people. You need to be able to, you know, drive them to do more for you. And how do you do that? Let them feel like we're a family. We're in this together. And even in families, you scold somebody when they do wrong. And so whenever I talk about family, you know, people sort of think, oh, then that means they're all there, they'll be lazy. No. You need to be able to put principles. Even in families, there are principles, you know. Nobody just gets up and jumps on the dining table just because they are family. No, they know we sit and we eat. And so treat your, you know, people that work for you as if they are part of the company and you will get the very best out of them.
How have you been able to get your staff to imbibe the passion you have for the business so much that now that as you're pushing the frontiers of the brand into new areas, you're confident that you can walk away from the shop as long as you do, and across the various locations, and I think you're in Kumasi now as well. So across your various locations, you're sure the experience will be the same.
Yeah. We have weekly meetings. I tell them about, I'm not afraid to let them know how much I love the business. I discuss everything with them. I mean, for instance, I'm able to call one of my girls and then ask her, Vida, which hair do you think we should order? You know, and then she tells me, okay, bring this, don't bring that. And I ask her, but why? And she explains it to me. And I trust it, you know. So you need to be able to build that trust, build their confidence, because, you know, some of these girls come with very low confidence. You know, you need to let them feel like they're a part of it, because that's the only way that, you know, they also think it's theirs. And so when you're not around or when you're out there, you know, pushing to get into other areas, they stand strong for you because they feel, you know, this is just for them as it is for you. You know, and for instance, in Kumasi, I barely go there, but the business is going on well, you know. I just monitor her, I speak to her, she tells me what needs to be done, and, you know, it's just going as it should. And a lot of people are not, you know, are not confident enough to move out there because, you know, you find people saying all sorts of stereotypes like, oh, you know, when you go to this area, they are witches, you know, they'll break your business, you know, and these are things that need to stop. You know, it needs to be stopped because it doesn't help us to grow. You know, I mean, if you run your business so well and you have a strategy in place, that strategy should be able to filter across other areas and then, you know, grow your brand.
Now, you talked about taking feedback from your staff and giving them room to express themselves. They're not always going to be right. When things haven't gone the way you expected to, especially being originated by a member of your team, how do you manage the process so you don't kill their drive?
Yeah. You know, earlier I said to you that it's a family, but even in families, there are principles, and I'm not afraid to scold them. When you do something, first of all, I mean, if I say I take their word for it, I still exercise wisdom. You see, you can't know it all, but you should be able to listen to other people. And in listening to them, I come up with my own decision that I decide, you know, but of course with feedback from, you know, all of them, what they have said to me. When you do something that I'm not happy about, I tell it for everybody to know about it. Because what I don't want is to call you and tell you you did this and I don't like it. I need to put a stop to it starting from you. And so I tell it as it is in front of everybody that, you know what, Vida, you did this way and I don't like it. You need to put a stop to it. But then I encourage you also. You see, I tell you that you're a fantastic, you know, addition to the team. You're doing very well, but you did this wrong and don't do it again.
So there's a balance.
There's a balance, yes.
In all of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fantastic thing to learn, that you're looking at team members as part of the business and getting ownership out of them, which is a great thing. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll find out more about the future of the beauty industry, and specifically the hair industry here in Ghana. And is there any competition for the business? And how will the hair center differentiate itself from this competition going into the future? This is the Executive Lounge. We'll be right back. A few years ago, a research published about the beauty industry, specifically the hair industry, pointed to the decline in the sale of relaxers, hair relaxers and things like that. And that was largely because there was this natural hair movement going on. Our very own Lydia Forsing has been at the forefront of the natural hair movement in Ghana. How has that affected your brand? And how have you kept it relevant to women who sometimes may have natural hair but would throw on a wig or two?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, relaxers definitely, you know, there's been a huge decline in the sale of relaxers because of the chemical content and all of that. I mean, we also appreciate that there's the natural hair movements going on, but the hair extensions has not had, you know, it's been a marginal decline, if you ask me, because you have people that are doing natural hair, and you know, every now and then they just throw on a wig because they want that option. And what I keep saying is that we provide you with options. We're not indoctrinating you that it's not good for you to wear your natural hair. If anything at all, we do support that you keep your natural hair, because I have natural hair. Why? Because I don't want to put chemicals in my hair and damage how it is. But every now and then I want to switch, you know, like you. I would expect that you would be wearing your African couture, but here you are sitting in front of me wearing a suit, which is a white man's attire.
That's right.
So clearly, you know, life is full of options, you know, and what people like. And so, thankfully, I would say that, you know, hair extension still lives. It still reigns, you know, because people are still, you know, wearing them. But we are also moving in line with the, you know, the trends that are changing. For instance, we're going to open up our treatment center, which is going to focus on our natural hair. Okay, because it's not enough that, you know, we sell you a wig to throw on your head. We want to ensure that your natural hair is also very healthy. We want to check to see everything is intact before we sell you that hair. Or, in case you need that, special care when it comes to your natural hair. And so we're doing that. We're also working alongside local, distributors of natural hair products to also, boost the economy, help, these local manufacturers of products to, we're incorporating them into our supply chain to be able to sell to some of us who want more hair.
So if you say by that local manufacturers, shea butter?
Shea butter is one, granite oil is one. There are also others that use, plants and all sort of herbs also to produce.
So this for you is, how did you come about the decision to incorporate the natural hair treatment into your value chain?
In every business, you need to be able to study your market. If the trend is changing, you need to follow the trend. Because, if you look at most products that have, just been flushed down the drain, it's because they failed to listen. You need to open your eyes and you need to open your ears. If people are going natural, then what's the job to be done? The job to be done is to provide them with whatever that they need to be able to achieve that look that they want. If people prefer that they don't, why wigs are such a big deal now is because it's also linked to the fact that people are going natural. Because people are saying that, earlier on when we were doing the installation of the extensions directly on the hair, it was damaging their hair. And so first it was relaxers. Then it came to, the sewing directly on the hair, the weaves damaging the hair. And so now everybody is going into wigs or going into natural hair products. And so the business, the brand needed to move along. And that's why we developed the shea butter last 3 years, to cater to the need of the natural hair woman.
So you watched where the wind was blowing and you went with it.
It's very important. It's very critical.
That's good. Now let's talk a little about the future of the business. How are you poised to remain relevant and potentially ahead of your competition?
Our sustainability strategy. We know the old story that happens in Ghana is that, most businesses are not sustainable in the long term. But we have other plans. That is why we are incorporating the treatment center. It's a, sustainability strategy. Because, if trends are changing, you need to make sure that you're in the right place. Another thing we're also doing is focusing on building the brand. We're building the brand very, very, we're highly focused on building the brand because when nothing works, it's the brand that will stand out and, do the numbers for you. And also listening to our customers and making sure that we tailor to suit your needs.
You talk about a very close-knit family and your brothers and your sister and you, very, very, very close-knit family. And you also are married with 2 children. So how do you balance keeping the strong family and then your relationship with your husband and the children at home and trying to expand and establish and expand the brand?
Well, it's been a very tough road, I can tell you that. Being a mother, being a wife, and, running this business that is growing every day. Most of what I've done is to involve them in the business. Every now and then my daughter comes to the store. My husband, all he hears about is hair. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy. It's tough. Sometimes I'm a great mom. I'm the best mom ever. And sometimes I'm not such a great wife, but you need to be able to balance it. I remember I watched, I think the CEO of Pepsi, I watched her, an interview where she explained how she did it, and I was totally inspired because here I was sitting thinking that it's not easy, but It's doable. You just need to let your family know what you're doing, and then they will provide you with the right support.
How much support do you think you get in terms of their understanding of the pressures? I mean, you at one point had to go away for 6 months.
Tough. Tough, you know. I mean, the children still do not understand. They will tell you work too much, you should stay at home with them. And then you need to explain that, you know, this is for you, this is going to be great. But, you know, you also have to understand that you can't get ahead of yourself. They are very, very important, and then they grow up so fast. So these days, what I'm doing actually is to empower the people that I work with, so they're able to carry the business in my absence, so I can be able to make the necessary time needed for my family.
Awesome. What are you passionate about apart from hair?
Helping people. You know, I love to help people. For instance, I chose to celebrate my daughter's birthday last 2 years, and then last year also with, you know, people in my neighborhood, outside my neighborhood, a few meters outside my neighborhood, you know, because these are people that we drive, you know, by every day to work, and it's just a few meters from me, and it's utter poverty. And for me, these people need to be loved. And so we decided to do something for them. Also, I think my next targets are salon workers. You know, I feel they should be celebrated and more should be done for them. So I'm not going to tell you about it, but I'm going to roll out something for them just to inspire them to make sure that they have more money in their pockets, because most of them are, you know, women and, you know, family owners, and then that they need the extra support that there is.
Wow.
You know, and so my passion is helping people. And, you know, my dad read a quote somewhere, I cannot remember who said that, but he said that youth is a blessed time, but the blessedness of youth is only and fully realized when it has passed. And so what I want to leave for young people is that when you're young as me or younger, you know, you need to understand that this moment can expire. You know, don't sit down and, you know, listen to the jargons that say life begins at 40, so take a chill pill and then, you know, just relax thinking that you have time. You really don't have much time. The world is changing, and it's changing fast. Whatever that you want to do, go ahead and do it, and you will do well.
Let's talk a bit about the other side of Gwen. What do you do in your spare time?
Read, 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 read.
Really?
That's what I do in my spare time.
That's all you do? You don't go dancing or listen to music?
Okay, I love listening to music at home every now and then, but I love reading, you know, or watching a love story with air conditioning on, window blind shut, you know, no phone calls. Yeah, that kind of thing.
A good chick flick does you good.
Oh, any day, any day.
That's interesting. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Gwen Gyimah Addo. We've learned quite a lot from you. I think for me, the 5 principles I'm walking away with, that number 1, research where you're going. You can't jump before you look. And if you do so, learn the hard way, but make sure you learn the lesson nonetheless. And also, it's important to have a very solid internal network of people who believe in the vision, as passionate as you are, and empower them to do the right things. And also, third, family. Never let go of family. Keep family on your side. Let them understand what you're doing, and you'll always have their support. And the fourth thing is also that you should be able to listen to your customers, because they're the reason you do what you do. And never, ever, ever give up. Well, as we started, we said, don't go where the path leads, but go instead where there is no path, so you create one. And I think that's what Gwen has decided to do. And her Senta, great talking to you about your lessons and the insights, and we've had fun.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
This has been another edition of the Executive Lounge with me, Inshira Addo. We've been talking to Gwen Gyimah Addo, the CEO of her Senta here in Accra and in Kumasi. Who knows, next week we will be talking to you. It's been fun having you with us, and we look forward to having you again on the next edition. Shalom, go forward, make rain.
The Executive Lounge is supported by Villa Monticello. Experience your own tranquility.